Welcome to the first Ref Show of 2018. A Happy New Year, everybody, and not least match officials who get discussed here on a weekly basis. Happy New Year, chaps.
Thank you.
Roger Dilkes joining Keith Hackett. I was with a venerable, veteran, hugely respected commentator yesterday that I think both of you know, John Helm. And his opening gambit to me was, I'm going to stop reading newspapers. I'm sick of reading about managers moaning about referee decisions. Now, his comment was aimed at the managers. And I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this. It was a general comment rather than specific. Is he right, or should he be moaning at the referees like the managers are? Which is it?
Well, Alan, I think to answer your question, I think refereeing is getting more difficult. And I think it's getting more difficult because of the quality of the coverage by television, the way the games are analysed, and the way the players are behaving. Let's make no mistake. There are players who are willing now to cheat, go for a dive in order to win a goal, or win a penalty kick, or get a player sent off. And then equally, I'm seeing challenges which are X-rated, that have no place on the football field, and a group of referees who I think are confused. Right. I think it needs... I've said it over recent times, so I think it needs leadership. If
there's effective cheating on the field, if there's dangerous play that's going to harm opponents, that comes at the door of the manager and his players, doesn't it, Roger?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even more than it does the referee.
Absolutely. And managers can put that right. They're the people that can put that right.
So here we are, sort of complaining the game, the highest profile figures in the game, are saying, hey, referee, it's your fault. When really, the major responsibility belongs with them.
Well, it's players who commit fouls.
Yeah,
referees don't. Not the referee. The referee's got to make a judgment. I think I'm critical, as I'm sure a lot of the team at URF are, of the decision-making process sometimes. I think that generally, where we see error being made is because the referee has not applied, if you like, some proper game reading, anticipation and awareness to get in the right position to see the decision. We've said often, haven't we, that they're caught out by the pace of the game, or they're caught out by taking up some positions. I mean, I watched Jon Moss, and I don't want to particularly figure him out individually, but I just cannot understand his movement around the football field.
Well, mentioning Jon Moss, of course, and the challenges that we did, there was a particularly horrendous one by Jason Puncheon of Crystal Palace on Manchester City's Kevin de Bruyne. It can't be a retrospective action, Roger, because there was a yellow card shown, inexplicably.
Absolutely, and it disappoints me that a talented player like de Bruyne is just moving away from the penalty area where he's clear in danger. He can see a clear space in front of him, and therefore he's going to take the ball quickly away into that space before he decides where he's going to pass it. At the same time, you've got Puncheon, who starts to chase him, and he puts in an horrendous challenge that takes him just below the knee.
It was a kick, wasn't it, Roger?
And it's a kick. It's a cynical kick, and therefore those sort of challenges should be outlawed in the game, and therefore that should have been a straight red. Now the problem is Moss plays an advantage and the ball's up the other end, and then he goes back and he sees Puncheon's on the floor just the same way as de Bruyne is as well, and I think he gets conned. I really do think he gets conned, that Puncheon thinks, well, when he's coming back he's going to do me.
Right.
And therefore he stays down.
These challenges are a recurring theme, though.
Yeah.
I mean, off the ball stuff. I mean, over the Christmas period, Kyle Norton of Swansea, stamping, this was Martin Atkinson in charge, retrospective 3-match ban. Ashley Young, an elbow in Craig Pawson's game, Manchester United, Southampton. Retrospective 3 matches.
Yeah, but a big shout out there for the Football Association for taking the appropriate action very quickly. That's what should be happening, because if we're not going to do that sort of thing, then we're going to have serious injuries. At the end of the day, professional players have a duty of care to their fellow colleagues. And going round kicking people like Puncheon did the other night. You looked at last night's game. Wayne Rooney was in exactly the same type of situation when he was chasing a Man United player. A little clip, not a kick that could have put him out of his...
Clip's enough.
That's right, and he puts his hand up, and I've taken that for the team. That's all it was, just to break play up. Not like Puncheon, where he could have put De Bruyne, he could have finished his career.
Okay, if players aren't going to be responsible and managers not really responsible, referees then, it's the onus of them to stop this sort of...
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, Alan, you have got two very experienced managers in Wenger and Pep Guardiola. And remember, Guardiola's in a strong position. They're almost certainly going to win the league. And he's criticising referees because he actually wants his players protected. That is the responsibility of the referee. The referee's responsibility is to apply the laws of the game. And we can go back over this show for many, many months where we've actually said that the problem we've got with our current group of referees is identifying the difference between careless, reckless, and those challenges that endanger the safety of an opponent.
Are we getting into event management at the expense of applying the laws of the game, though? Is that...
Well, I think I think we've all become statisticians, and I think that, you know, the likes of Roger, Rob Harris and others who were very effective coaches would go into the dressing room and perhaps say to the referee, I don't like what I'm seeing, you know, come on, tighten up. I don't think anybody's doing that. I think the management appear to be remote from the referees, and the referees are doing their own thing. They're looking at each other and they're saying to themselves, he's made a mess, and that's almost says I can make a mess. I don't understand why the PGMOL don't get to grips with their referees and say, look, we want you referees to apply the laws of the game. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you have to send players off. That's part and parcel of the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but then that resets the balance, doesn't it? If they start to do that, then the fierce challenges and hopefully the diving stops, ultimately.
Absolutely.
If they do.
Absolutely.
A proposal from you that readers of the You Are the Ref website will see is maybe bring in the expertise, albeit on a consultancy basis, of Pierluigi Collina.
Well, the reason I make that observation is that if we continue, the status of English refereeing is no longer what it used to be around the world. That's my first concern. Remember, we've had 2 World Cup final referees, European Championships.
Howard Webb, Mark Clattenburg, yeah.
And so in that sense, we've had referees who've officiated at the very highest level. We're not going to have representatives in Russia. We know that because Clattenburg's not going to be there. He's obviously gone. But my concern is that we're losing, if you like, that edge. Our games are transmitted around the world and we set the example as referees. And I think that is going away, and that's why I'm saying, look, Collina's done a good job in Europe. He's influenced how referees behave, how they operate. He's influenced our own referees, like the likes of Oliver and others, and Taylor. And for me, something needs to be done, and that's the only objective answer that I can give. Bring someone in, just let him have a look at it and review it. Review the systems and say, right, okay, these are my recommendations. I
know you'd like faster promotions and you'd like to encourage younger referees. I mean, Paul Tierney and Stuart Atwell would appear to be establishing themselves now, which is the kind of thing that you want to see, both of you, isn't it?
I think the only thing we'd advocate is that they should be given more games.
Yeah.
They've been elevated to the elite group, and they've both now been elevated to the FIFA panel, starting yesterday, basically. But they need more games.
Do you think there's a parallel with a football manager in the Premier League who daren't risk young players or too many young players and go with experience? Is that in the psyche of the PGMOL as well?
Well, it might be, Alan. But at the end of the day, how can you have a small group of referees, 4 or 5, getting all the key games? Because what that means at the end of the season is that these particular referees are going to be refereeing the top sides 8, 9, 10 times.
Yeah.
It's just wrong.
And it sends a signal to the others that doesn't matter what they do, they're not going to get these games.
That's right. And the only way that you will get referees coming through the system is now and again to take a few risks.
Yeah.
Management is all about taking risks.
I think one of the things that I would do immediately, Alan, is to say this. I would no longer have select group professional referees acting as fourth officials at Premier League games.
Well, let's take that up in part 2. Rejoin us for that specific incident in some Premier League and Championship games over the festive period, and that very interesting argument there from Keith. Do come back for part 2.